Hey everyone, welcome back to the All Music Matters Night podcast. I'm your host, Brian. And joining me today are two very special guests hailing from up north in Manchester, New Hampshire. It's the band
Hey, what's
Sepsiss
up?
with William and Melissa. How y'all doing today?
Good, how are you?
I'm doing good. Did you guys get hit with a bad snowstorm?
Today.
That's good.
No snow today.
We don't like snow.
Yeah, it had been pretty good last night. It was a little bit of an adventure trying to get home from the second job I worked at a local restaurant. So I'm just holding on for dear life because it was actually trying to go up this little hill here too, just trying to get back to my house, and I'm kind of skidding a little bit too. And I'm thinking like, please God help me so much. So that's all good. I guess how bad did you guys get hit last night?
I'm glad you made it. I was kind of kidding. New England used to be a lot snowier. It's not as snowy as it was when we were kids. I mean, it was really. I mean, there was winters that I can remember that they were like 4-foot icicles coming off of my mother's house, but we don't see that kind of stuff anymore. We used to build igloos in the front yard. We don't see that anymore. Big snow banks, 8-foot snow banks. We don't, everything. And when it does snow, as bad as it can get, it's like, it melts almost the night after.
We used to have to shovel ourselves out.
We haven't bought a shovel in 10 years. We live in an apartment.
Thank goodness.
Yeah, that's for sure. Actually, you guys get to live like Eskimos or something like that too. Do you have like the whole wool and everything too?
Yeah.
Or like, I always forget what they call those little hats. They have like little covers on it. It's like little fur on the inside. Wish I could remember what the name they give those hats. I actually got one upstairs, which I probably will pull out tonight because I haven't used it in years.
Oh, that's awesome.
I was gonna say you need to pull it out when you go on your snowy drives.
Totally.
Yeah, that's for sure too. But I guess how you guys doing today? What's new?
Doing good over here. We're writing some new music.
Everything's new.
Yeah.
Everything's really new. We feel new. It feels like a new time for us. We have well, of course, we have new band members. We have new staff members. We have new music. We've got new shows. We've got a new album coming out. We just released a new single. We have a new music video.
Working on a music video. Yep.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, and we should release some more music pretty soon. But with the climate of like streaming and the transition of not the music industry, but music business is changing. We have been trying to be patient to kind of see how that materializes before putting our various eggs in various baskets.
That sounds good. You got to elaborate more on your music here in just a moment here too. But Will, Melissa, I want to welcome you both to my podcast right here. And the way this is going to work is we're just going to get to know you more, both as the musicians, but also as the individuals too. So, as I do the questions, y'all ready to roll?
Yep.
All right. So we are gentlemen here, so the lady will go first. So Melissa, tell us a little bit about yourself. I guess, how did you become a musician?
So I have always been around musicians like my whole life. I guess you could say it's in my blood. My father's a guitar player. He had a band of his own when I was just a child, and I used to just like find my way into the basement and just be there, even though I wasn't allowed. They tried to kick me out all the time, but I was like, no, I want to be here and jam out with you guys, and I'd put on my earmuffs and everything and just hang out with everybody.
Did you have to hide behind the amplifiers and everything?
Totally.
Yeah.
Yep. But the adults were down there, so I wasn't allowed. But him having a band as I got older really made me want to make a band of my own. And my brothers would always like blast heavy metal in my ears growing up too. So like I was always around metal and rock, and I've always loved singing. Even when I was a child, I used to run around singing Disney songs, karaoke, that kind of thing.
And your brothers scream too, like not professionally, but they run around and screaming all. So you had singing
literally
and screaming
blaring the heavy metal in my ears.
Of course, and then your parents, are into music also.
Yep.
That's crazy.
I've always loved rock and roll. It's been my thing.
It runs in the family. I would say you were like the Arya Stark who just wanted to go and like do what the adults were doing. So
for sure. And I'd have some of my own influences too. Like I have some pop influences in there, as well as hard rock and heavy metal.
all right, we get to the influence in just a sec, bud. Will, go ahead. Give us a little bit of your backstory.
My backstory is quite different, but equally and musically charged. I come from biologically, I come from a family of Motown and jazz and blues musicians, but I was adopted by my mother, who we met each other in West Massachusetts, and I moved to New Hampshire. She was a trained piano player. And I didn't like a lot of the other toys that the kids did. I'd be popping the heads off of like Barbies and He-Mans and G.I. Joes and stuff like that. Until one day, my mom had bought me a keyboard, little electric keyboards, and Casio keyboards came out. And it just hit. It was my favorite toy. I brought it everywhere with me. And I was addicted to electronics and gadgets. And I was always getting yelled at, kind of like Melissa's story, by hanging out at the adult parties and trying to play the piano and entertain people. And I was always getting whacked around for trying to leave the blanket at festivals or music performances, trying to get on stage when I was a kid. And then my mom begged me to stop making irritating noises as a child for most of my childhood until some of it started making sense.
I had a little bit of that too as a kid. I would run around making like animal noises.
My mother couldn't stand it. She'd say her arms were always too short, and I'd be in the back seat. And she'd say if my arms were only long enough to whack you around back there, because I'd be back there making all kinds of noises. But I grew up on hip hop and rap music, and the first instrument I ever played, I was actually a DJ. I was a hip hop DJ as a child. I was a child performer. I was a dancer and a DJ of a child rap group. And later on, I'd start doing vocals and composing, production and sampling and beat making. And that's really what led to me to playing guitars and composing. And into my teenage years, I found, as you're going chemically, as you're going and you're growing, I found rock and roll music to be texturally and dynamically more emotional and more expressive than what I was getting from rap music and hip hop and some different forms of pop. And I think that like rock and metal had the edge in the poetry that I was looking for in my music and in my to take priority. And I fell in love with the instrument, the guitar. I hated guitar as a child because I didn't understand it. It was scary to me. It was harsh. It was, and it was all the things that I wanted to be able to express comfortably, and it wasn't so much the guitar, but it was the affair with how I viewed myself and art, and really rock and roll and the guitar allowed me to balance out my expressive nature. So that's why we do this.
That's quite a story. And we got two peas in the pod, as they would like to say too. So I guess.
Oh yeah, no kidding. Yeah. So we're both from very different backgrounds, musically, but expressively, and I think emotionally also, we're able to put our all and have a good balance. I think Melissa kind of completes a lot of what I can't do creatively, and she has really great ideas and kind of completes a lot of my creative ideas.
Yeah. And I guess, how'd you guys form the band Sepsiss? I guess, what's the story behind that?
Well, I originally met William through a Craigslist ad about 13 years ago. The band has been through a lot of members since we first formed, so we didn't really get like super professional until 2019, 2020, around like basically when the pandemic first started. And that's also when we released our first full-length album. But I met him through the ad, and I had set up a tryout with him, and I met up with him in Manchester, New Hampshire.
It was like a double audition. Like she was auditioning me, but we were auditioning her at the same. It was like.
But also auditioning another girl that same day, but she didn't show up. So I just kind of landed the part by default.
Which was cool because none of us were any good, so it didn't matter at that time.
Yeah, no, we were all horrible. But I thought you were amazing. You're just shredding that guitar. Wow. You were so good. And, you know, I showed him some covers that I was able to do, mostly like Evanescence stuff. And I had a couple originals at the time. And he sent me home with a track that I eventually wrote some lyrics to. But that song is no longer around today.
I can just remember wanting to be in a band so bad, and like me trying to be in a band in my teenage years and me trying to be in a band in my early 20s and just not being able to find anyone that was willing to like lay out some goals and talk about what we set to achieve. And I don't even think we did a lot of that in the beginning, but you were the first person that I'd ever met that looked me in the eyes and said, let's really start a band. Like, let's not role play. Let's really do it. I'd been kicked out of a bunch of bands. I'd been in some
I was in a bunch too, and they just never did anything. It was always jam bands.
It was always role playing and we never got past the, you know, what are we going to name it? And what are we going to do? We never got past.
Can we make a song?
Right. I was in a lot of bands, and it was like we never had a complete set list, you know.
I never made it on stage, not even one time until Sepsiss. That was the first time I was ever on stage, and I was so nervous.
And of course, I've been on stage with like rap acts and hip hop acts my whole life. However, I have never been able to assemble a group of people and write a song, practice it together for weeks, get it steady, and then present it in front of people without somebody getting drunk and, you know, somebody's nose getting broken or somebody breaking gear or the bass player goes missing at the strip club.
Band problems.
Right. All the bands I had been in before this band, even though we had some rocky roads too in the beginning.
Yeah.
And, you know, bands, you know, it's not the last time that we've played in front of less than 10 people. I'm sure we'll play in front of one person soon.
It happens.
Right.
Thanks, Bob.
Right. Thank you, everybody. Thanks. A warm welcome for Jake. Jake, thanks for being here.
Right.
I'm telling you, nice to be around you, ladies and gentlemen. Hi, where are you from? What's your name?
Right.
I feel like Ed Sullivan sort of show, too, so I can see what you mean there, too.
Yeah, when there's only one guy in the audience, it's like you don't have a lot of pressure. If he doesn't like it, you're in trouble.
Oh, yeah.
You're totally screwed at that point, yeah. So I can see what you mean.
Yeah.
But I know you mentioned about your influences earlier, too, so I guess who was it that really influenced you to take up the guitar and do vocals and that sort of stuff?
I'm sorry, what was the question?
What was the influences? More of the influences.
Some of my influences are like Evanescence, I mentioned her earlier, Hailstorm, Disturbed, Dio, Asking Alexandria, Alisana, lots of like rock and metal mostly. Michael Jackson.
I'm influenced, and it took me my whole life to figure it out, but I'm influenced by a lot of music that as a teenager I swore I didn't like. It's awful. Like when I listen to our music, I go, oh my God, this is all the stuff that I pretended to not like. I'm influenced by all the bands. I'm influenced by all the smart stuff. And I didn't even know it. Like usually it's like months or a year or two after we've done a recording and I'm bopping around to something and I go, wow, you know, this, you know, now that I'm hearing this, now that I'm fully understanding my expression, I'm going, this really sounds like, you know, Rob Zombie mixed with, you know, Alanis Morissette mixed with, and I come up with the strangest little parts and curves in our music. They might not be recognizable to the listener, but as the composer, sometimes it's enigmatic to me. I go, why am I feeling this way? Or why do I want to express this note? Why is this note the true note that I want to express. And later on, I'll go, why do I write like this? Or I'll think that no one's ever written like this. Or I think there's no other style like this. And I go, wow, this is funk music. Or wow, this is really a folk part. Or this is something that I never would have. This is really a saxophone phrase that you'd hear, in the Zac Brown band. You know what I mean? You just never know where you're.
There's a lot of variety in the influences of this band, I feel.
And it's genreless. It really is. There's influences from Aerosmith to, I can hear Aerosmith in our music, to Gwar, to
Pantera.
I do. And
Sevenfold.
And if you're sitting in the right place in the room, it just might pop out at you,
Yeah.
I used to pretend that everything that we did was super original and we were making up everything and we were really like revolutionary. But at closer inspection, the more I look and listen to our music and rediscover it, it's a lot like the stuff that my parents listened to. And it's a lot like the stuff that we grew up with. It's mind-boggling to me figuring this out years later, because when you start this, you're trying to be such a rebel and you're trying to prove everybody that you could do your own thing and that you're an individual. And as you're shaping your identity with your music, you're trying to do what's safe and avoid other things and appeal to whatever's popular or whatever's not popular. You're either trying to avoid being popular or you're trying to mimic being popular or figure out the recipe or what goes into being popular. You're either trying to be independent or you're trying to be in an industry, when a lot of times, we've heard all the notes. We've heard an A minor for you is an A minor for me. It just depends on where you're standing in the room at the time,
Definitely.
You definitely tell you came prepared for the interview. That's for sure. So
yeah,
you're good too. But I would say, yeah, in your case, it came full circle again. So it started off when you were just a young kid, and then all of a sudden, like, oh my gosh, I had right back where I started. So
yeah,
what am I gonna do? Oh man, I know what you mean. So that's pretty cool. And I know you had mentioned about COVID earlier too. So I guess did COVID really kind of help propel the band a little bit too, or did it kind of really bring you guys together more or less?
As far as the performing lineup, I don't think it was a great place for us. We had a different lineup at the time. And we've been a band for 13 years, but we have never had a solid performing lineup for more than 25, 30 shows. It's just,
we've been through over like 30 different members. So.
We play 15, 20 shows a year. It's all we can afford to do. We play as much as we can afford to get out. And, we want to be able to perform shows for our fans that are at a higher quality than maybe some smaller bands at our level. So we try to put in a little extra effort in building the show. So it might be a little bit longer. We might not play every weekend, but what you get from us is a packed room, we would perform the way national bands would perform instead of going to a local. We're a local band. But we're a local band that our stage performance and our stage specs and what we look to present on stage in our recordings is at a national level. That's kind of our bread and butter, is being a local band that performs at a level that you don't have to pay $50 or $75 to see, a band that has a really big sound and a tight production, for a fraction of the cost of what you'd have to do to go see, Godsmacked or, Disturbed or a huge band. So in this sense, that's part of our characteristics. Wouldn't you say? I lost my train of thought there, but the point is, when we play shows, we want merchandise to be on the table, for instance. So local bands, there's a lot of local bands that are just looking to play the gig. They're just looking to show up. They're just looking for experience. And there's nothing wrong with that. We've kind of graduated from that mindset. We've kind of updated for this band. We've kind of updated that mindset to make sure that when we're playing shows that we've done our due diligence, that we've gone 1 to 5% and invested ourselves in either great flyers, merch on the table, making sure our lights and our production, and of course our stage and choreography. We want to make sure our team is really healthy. We have a light, fit team that we roll with, and everybody's healthy, everybody's communicating, everybody's invested. But yes, COVID did have a massive impact as far as our last performing lineup, because when we were releasing music and working with the producers and the record label and PR companies and advertisers, our performing band, they got to take 2 years off. So we were in the office and we were working each and every day. And when you have people in your project, whether it's theater or a video game or music or an ice cream truck, if you have people that are coming into your project and they're not passionate and they're not working with each flavor of ice cream, then they don't care so much when you release the product. So what happened was, we had a lot of people in the staff that in most healthy situations, they would have been there each day developing the product with us, developing a relationship with it. But where these guys are performance members of the band, we have recording and intellectual members of the band, we have social media and copywriting members of the band, we have staff and stagehands and artists, and then we have people that are in the band that get on stage and play the instrument. Where Sepsiss is like a car, where somebody builds the steering wheel column, another person builds the wheels, somebody's doing electronics, somebody else is doing glass and safety. And in this way, we have departments in the band where people can hyper focus on whatever their job or detail is without being confusing or mucking up the other departments, so we run efficiently. Like I said, we kind of look at this small band thing and we take it a step higher to make sure that our shows are higher quality. So the members that we have performing on stage are not usually the members that are recording or writing the music. The members that we have on stage, the people that you see in the music video, don't write the bass parts. The people in the history of the band, we haven't had people playing on stage be managers or administrators of the band like local bands do. In local bands, the people inside the band are the managers and the administrators. That's not always the case in this situation. When we hire a PR team, we hire a PR manager to handle that PR. We don't hire our band members to do that. So when we released the music, we released an album without our band. And, and so they weren't connected to the material. They didn't get to work on the release. And as a result, when we released the music, they didn't really care. And in their defense, why should they? They didn't put any money into it. They weren't here to answer the emails. They're not pushing record sales. So the members of our band, and a lot like local and regional bands, the members of local and regional bands aren't expected to make record sales. The bass player's not. There's no expectation for guitar players and drummers to sell hats and T-shirts in normal local and regional bands. And we know that as administrators. So when we hire performers for the band, we don't hire salesmen. We just hire performers.
Does that mean you pull in like a lot of session musicians to kind of help out with your music as well, like behind the scenes?
Well, it's interesting. We don't record with other musicians. The only people that are on our recordings are me and Melissa. There are no other people that are at this time on recordings.
I see. That's kind of funny too.
The members of the band, they can perform the music with us on stage, because in order to write music in the band, you would have to be a band member in the band for more than 2 years to be able to write music in the band. And we haven't had any band members remain in the band for more than 50 shows where we could grant them the privilege and access to write music in the band. If you can't be, it's like this. If you work, well, no, if you were working at Target, they wouldn't give you a management position unless you could stick around.
Sure.
It's just because local music's people are so used to looking at local musicians like, oh, la-di-da, you could just blow them off, that those local musicians just don't have that standard, but we do. Just like Target, just like the Salvation Army. If you were doing a charity, there would be expectations when you walked through the door. And even if you were working for the charity or the church, if you didn't tuck your shirt in, you'd have to get out. And that's kind of how we do it here.
I see. So I guess would you say that's your biggest challenge, being musicians in a band these days? Or I guess what other sort of challenges do you face?
I think the challenges today are the same as the challenges years ago with bands. And that's getting a group of people in a room without manipulating them, and everybody agreeing on setting goals and how to achieve that, and then being able to set those goals, take the steps to achieve them, and then at the end of achieving them, everyone being able to measure the results to establish that success has been achieved.
I'm gonna have to agree with you there.
That's the only way.
Yep.
That's the only way.
Yep.
Is to speak the same language in terms of success.
Especially just gathering everyone together in the same room. It's
getting people in the same room over and over and over again to the point where everyone involved starts to agree on what the value is. But if you can't get everybody to go into the same room over and over and over again, it's unlikely that they'll ever practice to the point where they get good enough and then present it appropriately, package it and present it to the point where they will be able to see for themselves the value. And then at that point, you got to be able to measure it, repackage and present it, do it over and over again. A backflip is cute. Somebody comes up to you and they do a backflip. You go, holy shit, man. But it's not really a big deal. Let me see you do it again. Now, if they can do that backflip over and over and over again, then we have a conversation. But if you're producing a high quality backflip and it's a fluke, that's just called viral. That goes viral goes up and viral goes down. Yeah. We see a lot of virality. We see a lot of bands go viral, but you don't see a lot of bands have longevity, and that's what we're here to do.
Normally, when I bring up the question too, some of the big issues that seem to come up is whether it's like time constraints, whether like dealing with a family or working with multiple jobs, for instance, too, and even the marketing side with it as well. So
that's it. You just hit it. That's major. That you mentioned COVID and I just said something about longevity. I think in combination, what we're talking about here is survival.
Definitely.
And it's not just us like independents. And I use this word loosely, the music industry is in a fasting, fight or flight, survival mode. The current state of the music industry and economy is in this survival mode. And until we get out of that, and I think a lot of that is due to some of the environmental and economic and social unprecedented circumstances, most of which, a handful of which we can't control. I mean, we can't control hurricanes and stuff like that, Yep. But no, I think that's a big part of it. You see a lot of YouTubers, content creators, and I love our competition, and it breaks my heart, actually, when I see the most competitive bands dissolve.
I know, right?
The bands we love to, hash it out with, and the ones that, even the bands and artists that we disagree with, and even we love to see a good fight. We love to see people fight to the end. We love to see people passionate, and we're not separated by our differences or disagreements with as much as you see online regarding music and why people make it and treating it like an economy versus a culture versus you get all these different ideas and values and varieties of people, why to make music and what music should be about and who's it for and where did it create it. And everybody wants to be involved with this magical science of music.
Yeah.
Music is at an all-time high demand. It's not like it's lost value.
People love to be entertained.
There's not a restaurant you can go to or an elevator you can step in where music's not playing in the background. Sure. We are in an ad-based, ad-dominated society where everything is advertised with music in the background. So it's not like it's lost its demand. In regards to the conversation with creators and survival, you're seeing a lot of the biggest creators and huge bands dissolve, brother. And they're throwing in the towel because of that living, working, having to balance that living and working appetite.
Combination, yeah.
Yes, man. And I will say it. She's in the background here. She doesn't know I was going to say this, but our merch girl is a great example. She's a streamer. She's a merch girl. And when she's not working for us, she's working for somebody else. You know, and it's amazing. She took the night off, not really last night, but we were joking today. We were like, wow, this is the first day, you know, she's had a day off, you know, and we were like, oh, technically she's not really having a day off. She was just hired by somebody else. So it's like your day off now is being hired by somebody else. If you're a content creator or a streamer, you're just seeing the biggest YouTubers, Twitch guys, podcasters. I'm somebody that can relate. I'm the creative coordinator for the band, and a lot of times, we can't go out to eat or do anything without me looking at it like it's content, or how can I be making this into content, or how can this be conversation, or how does this play into merch, or how can I leverage? I'm always leveraging metrics. I'm always leveraging work. I'm always leveraging. And then some people, they don't even want the money anymore because it's just, you're leveraging that too. So it's like, there can be a burnout that musicians and creators have, especially now that musicians, and the more DIY independent you are, the more you want to take responsibility for your career climb, the more risk you're taking to reaching burnout if you don't regulate yourself. And this year, I think, was an important year for us because I had to poll our audience, you know. Sometimes we'll throw out a question, it'll reach 250,000 people. And we just wanted to know, like, from our fans, how much music should we be putting out? You know, we put out this music, we put out an album in 2020. Do our fans want an album? Do they want more singles? Are EPs dead? Like, how do they feel about streaming? And luckily for us, we're lucky to be a band that is so peer driven. And we are so peer reviewed. Almost everything that we do, we almost check in with our fans before we do it. You know what I mean? A lot of music that we put out, we run by the fans first. We run by our closest fans. You'll never hear a song by us that 100 of our fans didn't listen to before we published it. So if we publish something and say it's terrible, and we hope it never is to somebody, but when people, and they do say it, you know, when people say, oh man, you guys are really terrible, we say, you know, we apologize for that because 1,000 of our fans already like it and they've already asked us to put it out. So a lot of times
it's good to just check in and see what they think.
And sometimes and our fans trust us and we trust them. And when we do something that's over the top, they're not worried about letting us know, you know. We get a lot of feedback directly from the fans, and they'll let us know when it's really good or when it needs work. So they're
especially the super fans,
right?
They're gonna tell you,
and they tell the truth because they're invested. Yeah. They're the ones that wear the shirts. They're the ones that are equally invested. with us. So they're rooting for us, and you want to root for people that are going to win. So our fans have been really good to us, and we appreciate them for that.
Yeah, actually, I have been following you guys on Messenger, where that super fans, and I guess also your Sepsiss Yellow Jackets are too.
Yes. So, yep, the Yellow Jackets.
It's a place where we can annoy people without posting on our social feeds.
It's like an announcement channel, basically. They call it a broadcast channel.
Without polluting your feed, though, without posting your dinner and
exactly. You want to make like major announcements, put polls in there, things like that, simple stuff. Just keep them updated.
Yeah.
I guess before we jump into the social media real quick, for COVID on a personal level too, and Melissa, you can go first here. I guess, how bad did COVID impact you on a personal level and your family wise?
Well, it didn't actually impact me that much. I didn't even really I think I got it maybe like one time, but that was like after
but what about
deadly.
But what about like, and this is a deeper cut. But what about, like he was saying, like, how did it affect like communicating and like being with your family? And
communication was different, at least with the fans. I got on Twitch for that a lot. We're on it a little less now, but it was a great way to stay in touch with the fans, for sure. Yeah.
For me, I saw COVID in a different way. We didn't get really physically sick here.
Right, which is what I was saying.
But we got socially sick.
For sure.
Business relationships, family, people that we've trusted and loved for years. Just people that we would normally be able to have a normal conversation at the dinner table. At that point, we were so separated by our differences in sciences and our differences in truths, and that some people, we couldn't talk about being family or talk about music or do anything because everybody was so wrapped up in their beliefs and what was going on social media in terms of, what we prioritized medically for each other individually, and the pressure from family members to get shots and don't get shots, and if you get one, and it's the devil, and just the amount of human pressure and social anxiety and anger and separation. That's what I saw. I mean, yes, people got sick. We know people that died. My parents died. A lot of people died. But the other part is a lot of people died inside. The live music industry died. I mean, there was a lot of things that died, and are still. The music industry is one of the things that, if we didn't know how to pay the musicians before, we really have used that excuse now.
It was difficult for a lot of small businesses too. A lot of businesses shut down.
In town, we go to town during this whole thing, and we just see the stores start closing. A couple of days, we go out, and there'd be more people closing.
Like
the guy upstairs,
shop around the corner, that really sucks.
Our neighbors are dead. Yeah, a bunch of our friends are dead. I mean, and I don't mean from COVID. I mean from suicide, drugs. I mean, people just couldn't. I mean, that's what I saw.
My brother also died during the pandemic, but it wasn't because of COVID. So that's why I'm like, it didn't necessarily.
However, during the time of this in our lives, it was like, my parents died, her brother died, everyone got sick. People, I mean, it was a wild time for us. And in the same year, we won the New England Music Awards and released our first album. And us or the music industry, to be clear, we haven't been the same since. We don't have the same friends. We don't have and seriously, because the disease and the politics and everything that goes along with it. Our complete lives are different after the pandemic. Every part about it.
I see. And I'm very sorry for your losses right there. I know was a little bit tough too. And some people have been blessed in some sort of way because there was always like a little bit of a blessing in disguise too, like being able to expand like this and that.
There's another thing too. I do want to say, because that sounds like a bunch of doom and gloom. It just happens to be the truth. I don't want to depress anybody. I'm just being honest. But there's two sides of the coin to that. And that's, we survived as a band, and we survived as a team. We survived as a family, and the strongest people in our team, in our family, we managed that, and we're still standing. So despite all the things I talked about, we're still standing and loving our lives and making music. I mean, so there's a much bigger, brighter light from that. And the people that are still standing with us, we're stronger than ever. And we're doing more, we're more productive, and we're working with ourselves healthy, and we're working around healthier people that, like we spoke about earlier, our friends and family included. We have a lot more people included with us, our lives, and this project that have a clear understanding of who we are, our achievements, our success, our goals, and our determination. And they equally have an understanding of how we love and care about them shaping the future. So it made us stronger. It really did. I know that's kind of like cliche, but what doesn't kill you really did make us stronger.
Definitely.
It really did. And we're closer because of it as a band and as human beings. We've learned a lot about our health. It's something as simple as blood work and checkups, to just reevaluating in the process. I quit smoking cigarettes. Like, there's so many things that really did come out of that. And if it wasn't for everybody getting sick, if it wasn't for watching everybody choke, I might have never stopped smoking cigarettes.
True.
It was watching everybody struggle.
He quit.
I've been smoking since I was 12 years old. Yeah. I never had any plans to quit, but just after my mother dying and my father dying and watching everything happen, I said, you know what?
Gave it up.
My mother and my father both died because of disease and respiratory issues, so I knew what time it was. So sometimes you got to stand in the dark sometimes if you're going to stand in the light.
Absolutely, too. And it's good to see you guys made it through. And again, I'm sorry for your losses, too. So, it's like I said, what doesn't kill you does make you stronger, too. So, all right. But to get back into more of the music-wise, I guess, where did the name Sepsiss come from? Was that the name of it before you guys joined the group?
Sepsiss, as most people know it when you spell it the normal way, which is Sepsis, that is based off of the blood infection. But we took the word and added an extra S at the end of the word on purpose to make us Google searchable, so people could find us easily.
When we first came up with the name, like we Google search it, at the time it was hard to search bands at that time. There wasn't like all the stuff. Of course there was MySpace and stuff like that, but it was already on its way out. Facebook was new to being like a music place. When we first started doing this, there weren't like bands on Facebook and all this stuff. So when you did a Google search, we searched sepsis, all we got is diseases. So you're like, okay, well, we don't want people to be able to find us.
And a bunch of bands that already named themselves.
There's about 25 death metal bands
that
are also named after the disease. So we were like, well, maybe if we just put a different
spin on it.
It's like there, and there. Right. They don't have to mean the same thing, where and where.
We also wanted a word that was like uniquely our own.
We wanted to own it.
Claim it.
Yeah.
So it could be ours.
Right. You can't own an English word, so we needed to make a word up.
So it's a word that everybody recognizes, but it doesn't necessarily mean anything. It means us.
Right.
It means the band.
I think if you put one more S, they probably would have thought it was more like a snake or a puzzle tongue from like Harry Potter, for instance, be like Sepsiss.
Oh, yeah. Right.
Oh.
Totally. Lexi would have loved that joke. She's a huge Harry Potter fan.
Yeah, this is definitely a Harry Potter band. I think I'm the only one that's not.
Yep.
So guys, let's hear your spell. Expelliarmus.
Right? Yes.
Or Vita Cavada.
Yes.
Boom, you're dead. Or that sort of thing too.
Love it.
Okay. I know you mentioned about your merch girl earlier. Can we give a shout out to her real quick? What's her name?
Lexi Swarm. That is
Lexi.
our celebrity merch girl.
Yeah.
Who's now becoming a screamer.
Right, she's kind of becoming a band member. It's a strange thing. So she started an interest in screaming, and we all kind of thought she was joking around. And we, you know how people just say, "I'd love to be able to do that." Then one day she started just kind of barking and growling, and we were like, "What are you doing?
Are you okay?"
And she goes, "No, I really want to do this stuff." And then we catch her watching videos about screaming, and then for a while she was gonna. She said she wanted to play the drums and have some interest in that, and then she broke her arm. And when you break your arm, you can't do merch, you can't do drums, you can't do anything. Mm-hmm. So she was kind of down for a year, and out of the process, having only the instrument of vocalizing, she started practicing screams. And at some point, she started sounding really good. So now her arm is fixed, and she's full-time back on merch, and she's back on drums. And she won't be playing drums for quite some time, but her and Melissa have a new song coming out. So I think this is the first time any metal band has ever featured their merch girl in a real song.
Yep. And she did absolutely fantastic on the recording.
Yep.
I'm so excited for everybody to hear it. It's called Bathwater.
Yeah.
So that will be coming out. We don't have a date yet.
Yeah, we might just sneak it on people. We're not sure yet. But we just came out with a single, Romance and Reality, not too long ago. So we have a video coming out from that. We're actually ahead, which we never are. We're a slow band. We're slow burning.
Slow ride. Take it easy.
That's it. It.
As soon as you release a song, it's like, grenade.
Yeah.
Just toss it out there for everybody to see.
Grenade.
That's all good too.
That's all I can think about.
Yep. Actually, I was thinking I read too where they said grenade, and he just uses like his gun. He just like whacks it out of the air right back at the guy.
Do you play video games?
I have not played them recently. I used to play. I was really into Bloodborne for a good while there too.
Right on.
You know what? I had all the God of War games, and I have not gotten around to them yet. So, because I really like to see what that's
I think
like.
there's a new one.
There might be. Yeah, I haven't played that in a long time. But we play a lot of Halo.
Yeah, we're Xbox folks.
Yeah.
Well, we're everything folks, but we
have a gaming community on the Xbox called Immaculate Connection Gaming. So if anybody wants to play with us, we play every Wednesday and Friday as a group.
That'd be something.
Oh,
yeah, I would like to get back into it, but I just can't really find the time because it goes back to what we were talking about earlier. With
See,
the time constraints.
I'm telling you, it's everybody. It's not, and you know the thing is it can feel really isolating sometimes because you go, man, I wonder if anybody else is going through this, but really we're going through the same thing. Everybody is. Time management. As a matter of fact,
working two jobs. Yeah, I mean that's the thing.
Everybody's working two jobs. Everybody is.
Like it, yeah.
I woke up this morning. I was like, I want another job. And I was, and then I started the process of getting hired for a job, and then I was wondering like how much I could really, which scared me was like how perfect I was for it, and then me going, how can I really dedicate? Could I really dedicate another 8 hours a week to to something else? Seriously, even something you love doing.
So you could always go for the part-time option if you wanted to just get 4 hours a day.
Seriously, that's I like that idea. Because like nickel and diamond is like the thing to do right now. Instead of just having like one big massive job that's like kicking your butt, you know, it's nice to kind of hop around a little bit, I think. Not for everybody. I can't speak for everybody.
I would definitely be the same way because I always like to jump around a little bit too. And I blame coming out of college, I was in what was called the contracting business where you jumped around from various jobs. From this one, then it was a hiring or what they call headhunter company because they would at least guarantee you a job. And then you'd end up here. Then if they didn't like renew your contract, you'd then jump to like a new position at a different place. So there's that option if you're able to look it up and everything too. It was at least fun for a little while, but you didn't get the benefits. That was the downside.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So you're kind of on your own trying to maybe do the health insurance and the 401k, that sort of stuff.
That's the stuff. That's all the stuff. Yeah.
It's really what you need to, but I'll leave it up to you guys. But that's an option out there if you want to really do something like that.
Hey, man, there's a lot of people listening. So who knows? Maybe somebody can learn. Somebody will learn something from listening.
One would hope. So we'll see what happens. So good luck on your journey there, mates.
Thank you.
We'll talk about the social media a little bit too first. I guess first off, did you join our group, Band Together, that Christina and Greg from Vox and Sticks put together?
Band Together? Yeah, we're in there. We are in that group.
I'm in the group.
Yeah.
That's a good group.
I'm in that group.
I guess when'd you guys join?
I think it was a couple months ago.
I think when it started, I thought we joined. No.
I'm not sure if that's when it started.
I thought I was in it relatively early, but maybe I'm a late bloomer.
I know
if it's independent and it's like if there's real human beings in it, I'm gonna be attracted to it. Anything like that, I try to look for, even like on Reddit or the community. There's even a couple communities you can find on Instagram and even YouTube has some pockets of people that hang together. But anywhere where there's education, where the people are helping each other, where there's the common people, where there's diversity, that's where we're going to be.
Is that normally what you hope to achieve with some of your social media? Because I know you mentioned a good bit with like what you're doing on Messenger with those Yellow Jackets and super fans.
We've got the Swarm Sepsiss group.
Yeah, it's such a powerful. Our groups are for other bands, not really for us, really.
Yeah.
Like they're
for all entertainers.
Right. We try to create our groups just for pipelines for entertainers because we know how hard it is for self-employed people, from strippers to models to Twitch streamers. We're just fans of entertainers and people trying to make it on their own. So any way that we could that more authentic, help make that a real place where people can have safe conversations to make that a reality, that's what we want to be involved in.
We often ask people in the group to like promote themselves, promote their websites, their live streams.
It's hard to get people to promote themselves.
Yeah.
I think that's the tough thing. Like
people are welcome to share.
Some of our groups have like 10 or 15,000 people. We have like 3 or 4 or 5 groups with tens of 15,000s of people in it. And it's maybe only 8 to 12% of the people will post. Most people in there, they just want to watch. And that's cool too.
Yep.
Ain't nothing wrong with that. We try to put a little bit of content in there, but our groups are really made for other people to put their content in, and then we are comment on that,
Right.
Like so people can post in our groups and then we'll interact with them that way. But we find it's really hard. People won't post as much as they do, I think, in like Band Together. Like in Band Together, you see a lot more other bands that will post. I don't know if people feel comfortable enough to in our groups, but in our groups, they do a lot more watching. There's a small group of people that kind of do posting. We remind people every week. Yeah, we have reminders that go up that tell people to post.
All the time.
But we try not to post too much of our stuff in there because we're all over the internet all the time,
Yeah, that's for sure. And the way you kind of described it too, it seemed more like it was a little bit of a charity sort of work too. Be like, hey, you can use this platform here. It's free too. So.
I didn't want to say it that way. You know what I mean? Because I'm hoping that people will see it as a proactive in a way to take a way to take initiative. You know what I mean? Rather than, because sometimes when if you're in a band like Sepsiss, and let's say you have a band that feels like they're smaller, they're not, but they'll feel like that based on how images appear, right? They might be less reluctant to take a gift from me because they think that there's something in it, or they think that there's a hidden fee, or they think I'm trying to warm up to them. You know how it's online. It's not standing in the grocery store. You can't look people in the eye. People are, after the pandemic, all the scams, the schemes, the online crazy stuff, all the mass violence and paranoia. I understand that. And there's a lot of ego with musicians and entertainers and people online. We really promote to cut that down in the groups. So I think because we promote to cut that down so much, people aren't willing to put it on the line as often. You know, maybe they might feel that they'll be held accountable. They won't be accepted. You know, and that's true for people today, not just musicians, because people are out in the public for the first time because of social media. So a lot of people have an issue with rejection. That's normal for bands. That might be normal for somebody podcasting. Somebody doesn't like your voice. Somebody doesn't like your beard. Somebody doesn't like her hair. That's, if you're an entertainer or a stripper or a dancer or a cam girl, you have to deal with rejection the first day on the job. If you're in a band, you have to deal with rejection the first day on the job, if you're really going to take it on. If you're an entertainer, you're going to face rejection in the first year of becoming an entertainer. That's something that entertainers deal with on a daily basis. We're insulted. We're rejected. We get laughed at. We get booed. We get returns. We have to deal with personalities, just like people in McDonald's ordering cheap food. You know, when somebody doesn't get their CD on time, they're cranky. There's no record label to call. There's nobody there's nobody that we pay to hash out our differences. We have to go out there and look at people eye level, man. Yep. So, you know, our groups are the same way. You know, we promote transparency. Our groups and communities are only for positivity. You know, so if there's nothing positive to say, if there's nothing encouraging, we kind of encourage people to just be quiet. You know, if you can't participate or support somebody, the group is only to support. So if you're not supporting, it's okay that if you're quiet.
Yeah, you get too much negativity in the world these days. It's
definitely,
it's a good marketing tool to use. There's already
plenty of places for it.
Yeah.
And so when we unfortunately sometimes we do got to kick people, and they'll come back and ask us why, and I'll say, you know, because there are so many places already online for that. This is the one place that doesn't do that, you know?
So if you're looking for the hate, just go to the political channels and everything too, or go on Fox News, something like that.
I you know what? I would do that if I could stay in the realm of education. Unfortunately, I think that when you mix that with social media, it just winds up being chaos.
Definitely gets out of hand.
And whereas we're musicians, we're not political people. We're not religious people. We're not a pick a sides people. We're a people.
We're just people.
we're for the side that stays alive.
Just want to bring people together too. That's why we have band together. Yeah.
Even we want to bring people together that don't think the same way. And what I mean by bring them together, I don't mean they have to be in the same room and think the same things. I mean, they could leave each other the fuck alone. That's it. Yep. You know what I mean? Like, some people are going to think differently than you, and we gotta accept that based on a mutual investment in quality of life.
That's for sure.
We understand mutual destruction. Now we need to understand the other part of it.
MAD. Mutual assured destruction.
Right, so. right. So we need to understand mutual assured construction.
The Mac. All right. I like it.
Yeah.
We'll put that on a t-shirt right there.
Right on. Right on.
Okay. That's good to see. So good luck on your social media journey. I mean, it looks like you guys are doing some wonders out in the world as well. So
it's an evolving place. You know what I mean? Like the music industry and longevity and survival and all that stuff we were talking about. Creators, content creators, and musicians and people online, social media is an evolving technology. It's an evolving space. And if you're going to exist in it, you have to remember that when we first turned all this stuff on, it didn't promise to do the stuff that it promises to do now. When we first signed up for all this stuff, it wasn't advertised and described to us to be working in our lives at an intensity that it is now. When we first all signed up to this stuff in high school and college, we weren't prepared to be in the room with 2 million strangers every day. We didn't sign up for this stuff knowing that we were going to look at everybody's lunch.
Sorry, I thought you were going to still go there. All right. That's all. No. Actually, no sooner we were talking about it, too. I see Sepsiss the Swarm showed up on my Facebook page. I feel like, oh, my gosh. It read my mind.
It heard you.
Yes. It reached out. It was the voice of God.
Share all your podcasts in there. All the bands, all the people, generously. All the bands you believe in. There's no popularity contest. It doesn't matter who likes who. Share it. It's for podcasts. It's for independent radio. It's for human beings that want a safe place to share and grow. And I think we're one of the only bands at our size that actually we promote sharing our fan base with other bands. We want our fans to discover other bands and other podcasts. And
it's very important.
As much as we like what we do, it's equally as important for our fans to go and support other bands, and not just, and I think we get used to saying up and coming, not just up and coming. There are also other bands that have been around for a long time that are unheard. And there are bands that are super talented that have been around for a year or 2 years or 3 years or 8 years that haven't got the recognition, that have been unrecognized, that are certainly underrated, and they are underrated collectively by all of us. They are new bands because they haven't been rated. They are new because you haven't heard them.
All right. These guys are doing wonders out in the world right there. So I guess if you just want to highlight all the social media you guys are a part of, and so people can go check it out afterwards, so go ahead.
The best place to find Sepsiss is at our website, which is sepsiss.com. Just make sure you spell it right. So sepsiss.com. Go there and you'll see everything, because we're on everything. Literally Facebook, Twitter, Instagram.
Right. We're coming over to your house.
Spotify, iTunes, you name it. We're on all the streaming services also.
We're in the backyard, the front yard.
You can find our music videos on YouTube. But yeah, you'll find all the links there. You'll find our merch there. There's a little shop tab you can click on, and we've got so much merch.
Or you could buy a ticket to Rockfest in Wisconsin, and you could come and see us play in front of 30,000 people at Rockfest in July.
And that's July 20th.
Yeah.
In, let me say this right, Cadott.
Yeah.
Cadott.
That's it.
Cadott, Wisconsin.
All right, that sounds good. Make sure you guys save the date and everything too. I guess, so what are sort of tour dates you guys have in mind? Are you just sticking it around the States, or are you going to go globally?
So the only other one we have announced right now is my birthday bash, and that's in Worcester, Mass at the Raven. And that one's going to be April 13th.
And to answer the question, who knows? What's up for us in music? That's another one, like the streaming and everything. I think that the music and touring environment and ticket technology is about to change a little, and we're hoping that it does. We're monitoring that. And I think when and if some of these changes can be implemented, you might see us have the opportunity to do more touring as time goes. For right now, we are certainly focused on writing and releasing more music and just doing what we can.
All right, sounds good. Be nice to get you down here in the state of PA. Coming to Pittsburgh pretty soon.
Well,
actually.
we go to PA. Yeah. We usually go to PA once a year. We better go soon.
Yep. We'll make it back out there.
All right, I'll hold you to it. Make sure you hit me up whenever you guys come down. We can meet face to face.
You got it.
For sure, man.
All right. But I know we talked about the band together group a little bit too. So I think when people look at your channel, they see like all the followers that you guys have. They would say like these guys, quote unquote, made it big, to say the least too. But in your position, I guess, what advice would you give to musicians, as well as the indie musicians in our band together group and other musicians, maybe outside of the realm of all the groups that help like promote musicians and all that stuff?
First thing I would do is reverse engineer the modern musician mindset to get off the lottery. You got to leave the views and the metrics and the chart metric. You got to let the product of the lottery. And you have to determine why you're doing what you're doing, not what you're doing. The modern musician mindset is limited by corporations that build products to authenticate what you are. Social media, the gadgets and gizmos all create apps and programs and files and games and mind games for the poorest, most uneducated musicians to subscribe and advertise and use their own social spaces and use their own stage spaces and use their own voices in music to reinforce advertising and products that encourage musicians to fake it.
Some good advice.
I mean, Melissa, could you even top that?
I would say spend more time learning from other musicians and spend less time competing with them.
Woo!
Also practice.
Oh, and less time competing with other musicians or comparing.
You're still their thunder, man. What the hell?
Like,
she was on a roll. She was burning you, man.
No, that was nasty. That was good. Damn. No, that's the one right there. Nah, she said it because you could look at another band and go, man, they're on all these tours, but you don't know why they're on all those tours. You know? Sure. You could look at somebody with a lot of views, but a lot of people that might run into us online might be comparing themselves. And that's hard to do because we've been on social media for 13 years. It's hard to compare to a band that goes live twice a week. It's hard to compare to a band that's won multiple awards. So comparing yourself with another band sets you up as far as being competitive. I think that's, you know, imagery isn't always what it seems, you know? Half of this business is the mystique, right?
That's for sure, yeah. But needless to say, Will just got torched by Melissa.
For sure. Hey, no, I know where to take it. That's a reel. You got to take that. That's a whole reel. When you get this one down, you got to take that, cut it up. That's a promo spot.
We are not worthy.
We are not.
No, that was crazy.
You guys flatter me, really.
Hey, in all seriousness, it's real.
Thank you for sharing that, Melissa. In all seriousness, thanks for sharing that, Melissa. So, all right. So we are actually over an hour right now. So let's go ahead and jump to the gear, actually. We've got to actually ask about that. So I guess, Melissa, what sort of gear do you use for your music production? I guess if you guys want to elaborate what you guys use behind the scenes in terms of like interfaces, DAWs, go ahead.
We've got the Antelope.
Yeah, so Melissa only records on Antelope audio products. So Our interface, we use all Antelope Audio AD converters, which is analog to digital conversion, and mic modeling through AD converters. So the microphones that she sings into are like a separate computer on their own. And then the microphone is a computer, and it hooks and connects to the interface. And we are able to really like push hot analog signals without having to do the processing on the computer. So we can get big vocal sounds without having to process it on a computer. We can process it in the interface. I hope that makes sense.
Which is really nice.
So like if I wanted to bring up a preamp, or if I wanted to emulate a Newman or something like that, I can dial in a Newman from Melissa without having to process that data through the computer, taking less strain off the recording and just making for a lighter load. And then our whole band on stage, we use only head rush pedal boards. We're all DI. We bring no amps on stage. I think we're some of the first bands to do it out here. Everywhere we go, the sound guys love us because we don't bring any amps. We don't bring any big speakers. If we book everything, we can book the whole band and put it in a car. There's no trailers. There's no trucks.
There's great for travel.
Yeah, so
sure.
Some of the guitar players, their amplifiers are just as big as a Nintendo Switch. They sit right on the stage. They go in. You never know the difference. So head rushes. I play Schecters pretty religiously. They're heavy guitar, but I love Schecters. And I know Hot Sauce has Ibanez. And our bass player, Zach, is like a big guitar collector. So he's got, tons and tons of gear.
Yeah.
So it's just like, but I'd say those are the big ones. Antelope Audio and Head Rush are pretty much our big ones.
Yeah.
And a downstage, she uses a wireless Samson mic with a TC Helicon. Just a little bit of delay, little splash of delay.
That's all it's used for.
She can stomp on it, delays a little bit
it helps
for exit
some
notes.
Of the sound systems.
Yeah. If there's a really boring board and it's just dry, we can add a little reverb or something like that. Yeah. No auto tunes, no backtracks, no gizmos, no gadgets, no computers.
We're pretty organic.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful thing, intelligence these days. You gotta love what they're able to come up with these days.
It's been helping my back. I'm telling you, it's going to keep me on stage another 10 years.
If it's not because of that, it's also because of jumping that's going to probably blow out your back at some point too.
That's probably the truth.
All right, fair enough too. Actually, are you guys more strictly Windows, or do you use Mac computers as well?
For recordings, we use a MacBook.
We track on Mac through in Studio One. We track, but we mix and master Windows, and we mix and master in Pro Tools.
Oh, you're a Pro Tools guy.
Our producers are Pro Tools guys. We do all the tracking ourselves, and then our producer Glenn, he does all the mixing and mastering on Pro Tools. We don't mix and master our own music.
Well, I do say it's the industry standard, so I think you can see why he would use it too. So,
Yep.
I've been more strictly Logic, and I think it was because it was more of the cheaper ones for at least the Mac computers. So it came in handy, but it's still
ain't nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that.
Nope, absolutely. It's been pretty damn good, to be honest. Helps with the drum covers too. So, All right. So let's get into your music in general first. I guess when you guys create a new song, for instance, do you make the music first and then throw the lyrics on top, or do you do it vice versa?
It's really interesting because, so William's our composer, but he has recently been using the phone and recording his voice first to figure out the melodies to a song. And then he'll take it to the rest of us and be like, hey, do you like the way this melody sounds? So he'll make some funny noises, using his mouth. Just I can't even mimic what you do because it's so ticky-tacky. Could you give him an example?
The way she described it too, it did not sound like it was normal.
So just throughout the day, just kind of like what you had mentioned before, our songwriting has changed a lot because like when we were younger, we had a lot of time on our hands. Like working was more traditional. She worked at McDonald's. I washed dishes. We worked at restaurants. So it's like traditional scheduling. Now, because the band takes so much and being self-employed takes so much of our attention, we're responsible for any mistakes we make. So we got to be on top of everything. I spend less time. We used to write a lot of our music starting with like acoustic guitar.
Yeah.
But we're not out and about as much, but I am still active and mobile and moving.
He'll
so
just like think of this idea.
I think of
head.
right. I think of music.
Yeah.
I don't write it anymore. And I just while I'm walking. So if I have like a drum part, it'll start. I'll wake up in the morning and I'll start, and it'll be a drum part, and I'll just daka 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 da 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 daka da daka 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 da and I'll come up with a groove, and then later on I'll remember daka daka pam pam daka pam wee fan a little pam bow competent stand and I just talk like that for a while.
And he'll record himself and listen to it later and be like, oh yeah, I did that there.
Because I'll forget otherwise. Because the reason why I really started playing guitar to begin with when I was a rapper was because I couldn't fit expensive keyboards in the car, and I couldn't plug in a synthesizer in a parking lot and come up with an idea. I'd have melodies in my head. Of course, I couldn't play the guitar at the time. So originally, the real reason I picked up the guitar wasn't to play rock and roll. It was because I'd have thoughts and ideas and melodies in my head, and I couldn't express them. And something about the piano really never felt as expressive as I needed it to be. And of course, it wasn't mobile. So it's great if you come up with a melody idea and you got a keyboard there and there's a power plug and you got headphones. And you're not going to
have all the things.
Right. So originally I bought an acoustic guitar because the only thing I wanted to do was kind of like strum country chords, learn a couple chords, learn a couple scales.
You don't got to plug in.
I'm going to plug in anything. And I was going to use it as the guitar as a songwriting tool. But then later on, as I was writing songs with it and playing poorly, there were guitar players that were like, hey, you're getting good at that. And I thought they were kind of full of crap. But guys that were playing guitar my whole life were coming up to me saying, hey, man, you really should look at this guitar thing and start taking it serious because you're starting to play it in a way that people can't play it. I said, man, you got to be kidding me. And that's when when people put the battery in my back and told me, when all the older guys told me I was good at it, that's what made me really pursue the guitar. It really wasn't my idea. It really wasn't. It was guys that were much more skilled than I was, that liked what I was doing, and was able to bypass my self-esteem and push me through. Same could be said for Sepsiss. It's definitely Melissa's idea. Sometimes people like to give me a little bit too much credit. I might write some music, but Sepsiss is her idea, and the sound of Sepsiss is really your idea. I just try to bring that out.
And you do a great job.
But that's what it is. I'll make layers of stuff like that. And a lot of times, like nowadays, I can't even play what's in my mind. So it's kind of a nice cheat code because a lot of the stuff I'm thinking is really elaborate or colorful, and it's going to force me into learning or developing a technique that I don't have yet. So a lot of times I've run into having to learn how to be a much better guitar player, having to write for Sepsiss that I never would have been otherwise.
Yeah, in this case, you got a couple good catches right here. I mean, you got him with all the beats and everything too, and she knows how to help bring out the creativity in you too.
I'm telling you, yeah.
Two peas in a pod.
Yeah.
For sure. It works out.
Yeah. In terms of the lyrics, though, I guess, do you guys kind of base your lyrics on real life events, or do you try to craft a little story that people can relate to?
At first, we were kind of silly, I think.
Sepsiss writes about everything. It's crazy, everything and nothing.
Yeah, so. We started when we were a lot younger, so I think some of our music when we were younger is just I think it's just like colorful and storytelling and just like, I think it's like word association, you know, as time goes on, I feel like we have more of a cognitive story. I feel like there's much more. I think there's more reality. I think we're dealing with.
We write about love. We write about loss. We write about the end of the world.
People stuff.
Yeah, like everything.
Yeah. We try to stay away from like traditional metal themes that we love.
We don't really do politics.
We don't do
like religion.
Satan or like bloodbaths and stuff. We try to leave that. There's already thousands and hundreds of amazing, talented bands that do the math metal and the Nintendo stuff and the opera stuff. We try to leave that for those other bands. You got the new metal and the rap bands. We let them do that kind of stuff. We kind of, instead of doing the let's get in a fight theme or circle pit stuff, we are a metal band that tries to get people to dance. We want people to dance. We want people
to connect with the music.
Yeah.
And the words.
Long term.
Yeah.
Dance respectively, we should say. We don't want anybody doing mosh pits and throwing punches and all that other stuff too. Because I know they talk about the dicks in the pit where people are probably elbows. They're probably not helping people up.
There's a time and place for everything.
Yep.
I believe there's a time and place for everything.
There's no time for being a dick. That's the thing. Come on. Let's be nice here, people. We got too much negativity, as we were talking about earlier. So
that's why you see a lot of venues have stopped allowing mosh pits in general.
For us, I don't encourage a lot of that at our shows because, and just to explain it, I'm not against people doing it. However, it just so happens that a lot of our fans happen to be adults with kids that are working tomorrow morning. They can't afford to wake up missing their teeth. A lot of people that come to our shows are parents. They work hard. People go to something like Rockfest, for instance. They have taken the whole year and they saved up, $2,500 to go to Rockfest. Their 33-year-old mom going to watch Disturbed. I know she's not planning to get her teeth punched out. I know that's not part of the ticket. So it's like, I'm not looking for situations like that, me personally.
It comes with a risk and liability when I think about it. So actually, it's funny you brought up Disturbed too, because I remember seeing a Facebook video. It showed there was a girl, she was holding a picture, and she had lost a friend of hers who had died of addiction. And David Draymond, he brought her up on stage, kind of gave a nice little speech to the crowd and everything too. Did you guys have any powerful moments like that, or maybe you interacted with the fans and they told you, like, hey, your music saved me? That sort of interactions or anything like that?
I have had people tell us that, at least online so far.
We do get that a lot.
Yeah.
And if we didn't get that, I'm not sure we'd still be doing this. If
it's moments like that that really matter.
Right. We're certainly not doing it for any money.
No.
So like
that comes later.
If we didn't have many moments like that, and they don't happen all the time, but they happen when they need to. If we didn't every now and then, out of a couple thousand people, if we didn't reach people and people come to us and say, I was brave enough to get sober. I was brave enough, to start my music. Another one that we hear a lot is, you guys led us back to music. You guys helped me get sober. Those are the two things that I hear a lot is you gave me the courage to be a band again. I'm in my 50s and now I'm in a band again. I'm in my 30s and I thought I could never be in a band again. I thought I would never play again. Even younger people that they were down and out and they finally go, man, even people that are polite and honest enough will say, man, I never thought that you guys would play a role like this in our lives. And Sepsiss is the band that's played a role in our lives. And many of those people, a handful of those people have our tattoos. Their kids have grown up with us. We're a band for over a decade. Kids have grown up with this band. And when you're invested, this is our lives, so when you're invested in something this much, This isn't a hobby or a job to us. This is a part of our lives. This is a stitch and a thread in our real lives, you know?
There was even a guitar player one time I was speaking with who told me he broke his arm in such a way he thought he'd never be able to play again. And he said because of our music, he kept trying, you know, and eventually he was able to play again. So that story ended really well. It was amazing.
Another important time, I think, for me, because I grew up in group homes and boys' homes and institutions and juvie hall and corrections facilities. And a little after spending some time with the last lineup, we had a opportunity. Me and Melissa got a chance to go and speak inside of a prison and go play a Sepsiss set in front of 200 people in prison, in front of all of these people that were trustees and recovering addicts and alcoholics. I mean, when we got done with that performance, I mean, people were just in tears. You know, police officers.
It was very moving.
I mean, the whole room, everybody was moved. I was moved. I got to speak to them about my life and growing up. And at that time, we were up for an award. We were opening up for Static Acts. It was like a big growth time for us. And to be there in front of all of those people and having them ask us questions and being somebody that they could recognize, you know, all those kids with tattoos and braided up hair, and they were all looking at me and depending on me to tell them the truth. You know,
everybody was just on the same level.
It was clean. And it might be a bit selfish, but I got to leave a lot in that building that day. And later on, we were contacted by a few of them, and they wrote it, and they had gotten home and their life, and you know, and I don't know what they're doing now, but you know, we had received word that many of them were doing good and that they remembered us, and a few of them had retained the knowledge and held on to what I said, and even if for a few weeks upon release, that's what they used, you know what I mean, as fuel to fill out an application or pick up a guitar, man, I feel like I did something, you know, that's more than complaining about it.
And it must have been very invigorating too. Actually, I think it's more like what Johnny Cash did. I always want to call it the Jailhouse Blues or whatever it's called, but I know Johnny Cash, he did something similar. It was like he was live in San Quentin prison or one of those.
This wasn't quite that magical, but this was cool, man. It wasn't that quite grand. I mean, we had some acoustic guitars and different things. We couldn't bring thing in, you know, they didn't have a big stage set. Imagine that. They didn't have a big stage set up, but we made the most of it. And we've never had a more polite, gracious, grateful audience than the people in that prison. They were quiet. When we performed, they were so quiet, you'd have thought we had amplifiers. They were so quiet watching us playing that it was so polite, they could hear the nervousness in my voice singing. They could hear the emotion because it was just like...
You could hear a pin drop.
You could hear a pin drop. That's how polite those men were. Mm-hmm. Huge dudes with, you know, missing eyes and tattoos and knife wounds and bullet wounds, all type of different flavors and sizes of these people. And they sat there, and they weren't all fans of rock and roll, man. They weren't all fans of what we were doing. They had no clue who we are. They sat there. They locked into it, man. We sung them a couple songs, and for that moment, they were in the band. Very cool.
That's very good to hear. Yeah, and hopefully they're all doing pretty well. It would be nice to get back in touch with them, see how they're all doing.
So. It would be.
Absolutely.
All right. I'll leave it up to you guys, but thank you so much for the work you guys do. So.
Thanks.
All right. So we briefed through questions here pretty good, and we got over an hour and 30 minutes already. So let's go ahead and jump to the fun ones. Ready?
Sure.
All right. So let's start with the first one right here. Melissa, what would you consider as your favorite food?
My favorite food is definitely seafood. I am a seafood kind of girl. I grew up on the seacoast, so anything seafood. Lobster being my favorite. of course, the expensive one. But I also love like salmon or any kind of fish, really. Haddock.
But she doesn't like
clams.
boats.
I hate the water. That's
but she doesn't like boats.
Part. I hate boats. I hate the water. It scares the hell out of me. Something about big, open
ocean liners.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just like the ocean. I'm cool with like a pool or something, you know, because nothing's swimming under my feet.
Your food's not swimming under. It's all the anxiety that she has from all the lobster that she's eaten. That she thinks that they're going to get revenge.
I love sea creatures. They taste so good.
Boats and hoes. So. Yeah, that's what you mean too. Actually, now that it's Lent too, now you get to get like a whole bunch of fish dinners and everything too. So everybody's digging into the cods and those pollock fish sandwiches and everything too. So it's a good time for seafood. Yeah,
caught dead on a boat. Just any kind of boat.
That's
Little
it. Nothing but land
boat.
Animals for you.
You'll never find me on a boat.
We absolutely have to force her to. I guess I'll get her on a cruise line too. That we'll probably have to drag her on there. Will.
I would be so scared. I don't know if you can get me on a cruise. I don't know about that.
What if it's a gig?
I don't know.
You saw what happened to those guys that shipwrecked last week?
Oh man, don't even tell me.
They had to pull over. I'm telling you, it got scary.
I mean, I've seen videos of those giant waves that happen in the North Sea right there.
Yo,
it's kind of like
that is crazy. Imagine the stage.
You want to give me a nightmare?
Amplifiers sliding around. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Front of the house, merch tables sliding down the deck.
Swallowed by the ocean.
Boat tips over and everything too because Poseidon got pissed off by something.
Right. The planet is 70% water.
I know.
And so are you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Something in that range. Yeah, I could do what you mean too. All right. But Will?
70% energy drink. Thank you very much.
She's 70% energy drink. You gotta stop. That's really funny, Melissa. I like barbecue, man. I'm a barbecue guy.
Barbecue, huh?
Yeah. Yeah, like especially like brisket. Beef ribs, brisket. I love pork. I like pig
Americana.
roast. Yeah, man. Pack it and stack it.
I love all
Needs
that.
to fall off the bone, ribs.
Yes. Stuff, melting meat with sauce and dry rubs and so I'll do seafood too. Just put it on a barbecue.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, now you're in there.
Seafood and steak. Now we're talking.
See, yeah,
totally. No, I love both.
And then I think my other. I don't know if you can count them both, but like soul food and Spanish food, like anything like that, like a good Spanish plate at a bodega. Yeah, if you're on the East Coast, you'll know what I mean.
I've heard of surf and turf, which is basically a steak and little crab cakes on it. So I can see what you mean.
That's good stuff.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
It's good stuff. All right. For the next one, what would you consider as your favorite movie?
Yeah, I don't watch a lot of movies.
So what's your favorite one? That you have to narrow it down then.
It should be at least narrowed down, or at least one you've seen while as a kid. Yeah.
Trying to think back.
That's crazy.
You know what one's really good? Actually, Van Helsing.
That's a good movie.
That's a good movie. Yeah. I love stuff like that. Werewolves, vampires.
Yeah, that's a good one. I think one of my favorite movies of all time is like Coming to America with Eddie Murphy.
Welcome to America.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
I've seen that with you, I think.
Yeah, I'm older than you.
Yeah.
It's an 80s
You showed me that one.
Yeah. It's a comedy.
It's a good movie.
It's just silly.
Yeah.
It's a stupid comedy. Let's say it.
Yeah.
It makes us laugh. Yeah. That's all good. Yeah. All right. And
first more TV shows than movies.
Right. It's definitely like not life changing. He said movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, we get too many of those TV shows where they get more of the critical acclaim and that sort of stuff these days.
Something, that's not a movie.
TV
that's not a movie.
So much better than movies because you can just like really dive into the story.
That is true. Yeah, TV shows you're able to dive in more to characters and everything too, if you do it right.
Yep, absolutely.
So you guys got the same flavor in entertainment. I want to do the movie because I want it to complete. I don't want.
You just want it to be over.
Right.
Already.
I want to start it and then be done with it. I think a great story has an ending. Because people want to do Walking Dead forever.
Continue. The story needs to go forever.
You want Walking Dead to go to your whole life.
Yes.
Oh my God. I want the zombies.
It gets old after a while.
That's it.
Walking Dead is amazing.
Like, I don't know about the Game of Thrones. I just think at some point there should be just the game. No more Thrones.
I love Game of Thrones, but I hate the ending.
Is it ended?
Yeah.
I love it.
It has, yeah.
No, it's awful. Never watched the last episode. The whole thing is great until the last episode.
Oh,
Everybody
man.
will tell you that too. That's seen it. Promise.
Actually, I tell you, the last season was the one that killed it, to be honest. So.
Damn, I'm the only one who doesn't know about this thing, but I'm glad that there's an ending. See how that works?
This is amazing. Yeah.
I say it's a good thing you don't, because you'll be disappointed in the end, Will. So,
Sorry about
that. For the next question here, first off, do you guys drink by any chance?
I do socially.
I guess what's your favorite alcoholic drink and non-alcoholic?
Wait, I'm sorry, what?
What's your favorite alcoholic drink and non-alcoholic drink?
Favorite alcoholic drink is a Blue Hawaiian. My favorite non-alcoholic drink would be, well, I drink a lot of energy drinks, so I personally love the Rockstar Boom energy drink. It's like a strawberry flavor. But I've also been drinking Prime lately. So.
Damn, this sounds fancy.
So, yeah, I've got one right here, actually. It's what flavor is this? Ice Pop. Yeah. Pretty delicious.
You drink Boom? I don't drink any alcohol. I don't drink any alcohol because I go boom. So I don't drink alcohol. I'm a recovering alcoholic, an ongoing advocate for people that struggle with alcohol. So I try to tell people if they like drinking and they can handle drinking, I advocate for them to drink. I like my friends that can drink socially without like driving or doing something ridiculous. But I'm part of that group of people that if I drink alcohol, I become a completely different animal. So I'm part of the group of people that helps other people stay safe from that.
That's very good to hear. That's why I did ask you earlier, because some people have become recovering alcoholics. So I was like,
oh yeah. And about that, it's probably the most rewarding, selfish thing I've ever done in my life, aside from quit smoking cigarettes. Both have been completely rewarding every moment of my life.
I was saying, it's supposed to be selfless, not selfish.
Yeah, for sure. I'll go with that.
All right, that works. You meant to say that, not selfish, because then it comes out wrong. So it's all good. All right. And for lots of fun questions, what would you consider is your favorite song?
Let's see. Going back for me, it would probably have to be Bring Me to Life by Evanescence, because that music video, when it first came out, really changed my life. For sure. What about you?
My favorite song of like all time?
Right.
Or a song you probably listened to a good bit recently, if that helps.
Wow. Oh my God. Can I do like my favorite like right now? Who's that band that I like? That's not Seether, is it? Which band is that? That Breakaway song. What's that?
Breakaway.
That's the one I like right now. Away from everybody.
Oh, that's 3 Days Grace.
Yeah, whatever that is. That's what I like today.
That's a good one.
Yeah, that's the mood I'm in today.
3 Days Grace, Break.
Yeah, shout out to them. I like that type of music.
Yeah, it's a newer song.
It's like heavy pop, hard rock.
That was a good choice. Yeah, I remember seeing the music video where they're each in separate rooms and the paint comes flying in.
Such great songwriting.
Yeah, that's for sure. So that's off to them too. Actually, I remember Animal I Become. I think it was I Hate Everything About You. There was another one by 3 Days Grace.
That's a good one too.
Yeah, I like that one. I like a lot of.
I like, yeah, no, they're good.
I like a lot of older 3 Days Grace too, though.
Good. I mean, even the mixes are like competitive. When you put that in the stereo right now, you go out to the car, you put it in the stereo, it's good.
They got some good new ones too, for sure.
I like older music that stands up with like modern mixing. That's what I'm liking right now. Like music that might have been like from the 2010s that stands up with like modern mixing. Because I think like a lot of modern mixing has gotten so overproduced or synthetic that it's like sometimes it's not fun for me to listen to from my ear.
Yeah, that's for sure. I can relate in a certain way, especially if I'm listening to. That's
some
why
of it.
I always go back to the.
Yeah, no, some of it.
To be fair, yeah, I think Nuclear Blast still does a hell of a nice job with all the death metal bands they get through their studios and everything too. So yeah.
There's just a lot of high frequency production, like that high 1-2K frequency production that everyone's boosting. It's just crazy for me to hear that. I just don't understand why they're boosting that frequency.
I don't know. Maybe it's a science behind it too, but we'll digress on that. So, all right. So Melissa and Will, we are almost at the end of my podcast right here. We are down to one more question. Before we jump into it, did you have any questions for me or any final words you want to say to your fans before we jump into it?
Yeah, what do you play? You're a drummer?
I am a drummer, yeah. I do a little bit of bass every now and again, but I like to.
I can feel it.
Yeah. Actually, I don't know if you.
I know because your apartment's tidy. That's how I know.
What do you enjoy most about interviews?
Yeah, there you go.
I would say it's definitely been to interact with various people in and around the world, too. I mean, last night, before I went to bed, I was talking with a guy from Australia. So, I mean, it's great to interact with people in and around the world. And it really helps me in general because I'll confess, I'm really an introvert at heart. I tend to like just to, I'm going to say maybe not stay inside the whole time. I like to at least get out every now and again, too. But I have a hard time trying to interact with complete strangers, let alone hold a conversation. So doing something like this and also having a little script with the questions and everything too, it helps out. It really helps me interact with people. That's a good way to
kind of like break out of yourself a little bit.
That's the idea. So,
no, that's good, man. Yeah. No, keep challenging yourself. That's awesome.
And I was interacting with you guys.
And you're doing a great job, man.
Yeah, for sure.
Thank you so much. It does mean a lot, especially getting those sorts of compliments too. Even though I admit I'm soft-spoken at times, as I'm sure you guys had noticed too. With some of the questions I was given, I know I probably was, a little too much doing like this and that too. So,
nah, man, this is rocking. This is great.
All right. Did you have anything else or?
No, thanks for having us, man. Yeah. That's it. Just thank you for giving us the opportunity.
Absolutely.
All right. But you got one more question, and you might have harped on it a little bit too, but here's how it goes. So, given what COVID has done, obviously you guys had your own little struggles before COVID and everything too. Then you had your little maybe dark moments with COVID as well too. But for those musicians and people who are still impacted in some sort of way, whether it was because of COVID or not, what sort of message of hope could you give to musicians and people out there as we try to move forward in a post-COVID world?
I'm going to say take your time and have a plan.
The plan is definitely key.
Write down a plan. Yeah. Use your imagination. The best, strongest, beautiful body part you have is right between your ears. Having a plan, knowing that everything that's happened, looking at your results and being able to measure the things that have happened most recently in your life, not harp on them, and plan to put the next foot forward. Yeah. Don't worry about being popular or rich. Worry about being happy. Focus on being happy. Don't worry. Don't have so much anxiety about what the general construct pretends to be important.
That was positive right there. I wanted to make sure everybody got it out, to be honest. But spoke like a bunch of true prodigies. All right.
Thanks, man.
No worries. So, Will and Melissa, we've reached the end of my podcast right here. And boy, oh boy, we almost talked for a good 2 hours right there. But I guess, do you want to do any music promotion or any shouts you want to give to your fans before we close?
Yeah, just go listen to Romance and Reality.
Yeah, you can find that on pretty much every streaming service.
Yep.
And we'll have a music video for it soon. No official date yet, but it's coming.
Yeah, and just thank you to all the fans and all of our friends and family for continuing to support us. Appreciate it.
All right. I know you guys mentioned about your shows earlier, but I guess, do you guys have any other shows or any events you have coming up soon?
Just Rockfest.
Yeah, Rockfest.
We hope to see everybody at Rockfest. There'll be more shortly.
And the one in Worcester.
Yeah, we'll be in Worcester April 13th.
All right, sounds good. So,
thank you, man.
All right, everyone. My guest today was Melissa and Will, hailing from up north in New Hampshire, Manchester, New Hampshire, to be honest. And these guys are part of the heavy Grammy-nominated band Sepsiss. So go hit them out. Go hit them up on the socials. Go talk to them. These guys are doing a lot of things out in the social media world. So go interact. We got to get back into do a lot more of the interaction and everything too. Pre-COVID, we should say. Now we get to the post-COVID stage where everyone at least becomes more interactive. So, Will and Melissa, thank you again so much again for coming on and sharing your stories. Y'all stay safe.
Thank you, man.
Rock on.
Much love.
Peace.
Bye.
Stay tuned, y'all.